Maya Kapoor, the radiant bride from a wealthy business family, and Arjun Mehra, the ambitious entrepreneur hungry for power, appeared to be the perfect newlyweds, but behind the sparkle of their Dubai yacht party, their love story was about to unravel into betrayal, greed, and murder. The wedding of Maya Kapoor and Arjun Mehra was the kind of event people in Dubai whispered about long after it ended. The city had seen luxury, but this celebration seemed to outshine them all. Guests arrived at a five-star hotel where the ceremony was held, walking into halls filled with roses, chandeliers, and golden decor that sparkled under the soft lights. Every detail was carefully planned to perfection, from the designer outfits flown in from Paris to the orchestra playing soft music as the bride walked down the aisle. Maya looked radiant, dressed in a silk gown with intricate embroidery, her presence both graceful and warm. Arjun stood beside her in a tailored suit, appearing confident and devoted. To everyone watching, it seemed like the perfect match, a union between two successful families destined to flourish. Maya came from a respected business family with deep roots in India, her father known for his investments across Asia and the Middle East. She had grown up surrounded by privilege, but carried herself with humility, often admired for her kindness. Arjun, on the other hand, was the ambitious self-made entrepreneur who had risen quickly in the competitive world of Dubai's real estate market. His story was one of determination and charm, a man who knew how to win people's trust. When their paths crossed, it appeared to be fate, a story of love that blended tradition with modern ambition. For Maya's family, he was the ideal choice, polished, successful, and seemingly devoted to their daughter. The ceremony itself was filled with grandeur. Cameras flashed as the couple exchanged vows, their smiles captured and shared across social media. Guests toasted to their happiness, praising their union as the beginning of something extraordinary. Behind the laughter and celebration, however, Arjun's mind was occupied with more than just love. The marriage opened doors to unimaginable wealth and influence. For him, it was not just a partnership, but a calculated step toward greater power. The sparkle in his eyes that night was as much about ambition as it was about romance, though no one suspected it. As the evening drew to a close, the newlyweds looked like the embodiment of happiness. Friends envied Maya for her fairy-tale wedding and admired Arjun for capturing her heart. Yet, beneath the surface of their perfect beginning, cracks already existed. Cracks invisible to everyone except the man who had carefully constructed the illusion. The dream wedding was a beautiful mask, hiding the dark intentions that would soon surface in the most tragic way. The weeks following the wedding were filled with endless photographs, congratulatory messages, and the glow of newlywed life. To mark the occasion in true Dubai fashion, Maya and Arjun decided to host a grand yacht party. It was meant to be both a celebration of their marriage and a statement of their status, a way of reminding everyone that their lives were bathed in success and luxury. The yacht itself was an impressive sight, a floating palace with gleaming decks, private suites, and a staff dedicated to serving every need. As guests stepped on board, they were welcomed with glasses of champagne and the view of the Arabian Gulf stretching endlessly into the horizon. The evening carried an air of glamour. The yacht sparkled with string lights draped across the decks, while the music pulsed softly in the background. Laughter and conversation blended with the gentle sound of waves crashing against the hull. Friends and business associates mingled, enjoying the endless flow of expensive drinks and an array of dishes prepared by renowned chefs. To most, it felt like an unforgettable night, a perfect reflection of the wealth and elegance associated with the couple. Maya moved gracefully through the crowd, her smile lighting up every conversation, while Arjun maintained his role as the attentive host. But beneath his polished exterior, Arjun was restless. Each smile he offered, each toast he raised, was an act of performance. He had planned the evening carefully, using the party as a stage where his life appeared flawless, yet his thoughts kept drifting elsewhere. Behind the glow of the celebrations, his marriage no longer felt like a joyous beginning, but a delicate arrangement he was determined to control. While Maya spoke warmly to friends and family, unaware of his inner turmoil, Arjun's mind replayed the risk she posed to his ambitions. The wealth and connections he had secured through her family were vital to his image, but he feared that her presence had begun to threaten the empire he envisioned. As the yacht sailed further into the Gulf, away from the city's skyline, the mood shifted subtly. The lights of Dubai grew smaller in the distance, replaced by the vast expanse of water reflecting the moonlight. Guests danced, laughed, and toasted without realizing that their evening of joy was also becoming a stage for something far darker. Arjun's plan had not yet taken shape in their eyes, but in his heart, the outlines of betrayal and violence were already clear. The night that glittered with promise would soon unravel into something unforgettable for all the wrong reasons. As the yacht drifted deeper into the Gulf, the festive energy continued to pulse through the decks, but beneath the shimmering surface of the night, small details hinted at something unsettling. Some guests began to notice the faint tension between Maya and Arjun. Her smile, though radiant, seemed forced at times, while his gaze carried a sharpness that contrasted with his outward charm. To most, these moments appeared insignificant, but they were fragments of a much larger story slowly unraveling. Maya had recently stumbled upon troubling discoveries about Arjun's financial dealings. What she thought was a thriving business empire was riddled with hidden debts and questionable transactions. Arjun's image as a successful entrepreneur had been carefully constructed, and Maya's knowledge threatened to pull the mask away. She had confided in a close friend days before the yacht party, admitting her growing doubts about the man she had married. To her, this was more than dishonesty, it was betrayal. Her love had turned into unease, and her trust was slipping. For Arjun, Maya's awareness of his secrets was dangerous. He had worked tirelessly to present himself as powerful and untouchable, but if she revealed what she knew, it could all collapse. The wealth he had gained access to through the marriage, the networks of influence he had entered, and the respect he had built in Dubai's elite circles could vanish overnight. Every smile he gave that evening, every handshake and toast, was overshadowed by the gnawing thought that Maya held the power to destroy him. The party continued with music and laughter, but Arjun's thoughts grew darker as the night wore on. The glow of the lights, the rhythm of the waves, and the careless joy of his guests blurred into the background. He could no longer see the celebration for what it was. All he could focus on was the choice he believed he had to make. For him, there was no room for risk, no possibility of surrendering to Maya's control. By midnight, the outlines of his decision had hardened into something irreversible. What had begun as a night of glamour was slowly transforming into a stage for treachery. To the guests, it was still a beautiful evening on the water. To Arjun, it was the moment he would silence the threat forever. The Gulf's endless darkness waited silently, ready to swallow a truth that only he and Maya understood. The music played louder as midnight approached, drowning the sound of waves against the yacht's hull. Guests were still caught up in the revelry, unaware that danger lurked so close. Maya moved toward the edge of the deck, taking a brief moment to breathe away from the crowd. The sea stretched endlessly, glistening under the silver glow of the moon. For her, it was a quiet escape, a chance to gather her thoughts after hours of smiling and mingling. For Arjun, it was the opportunity he had been waiting for all evening. He followed her with deliberate calm, masking the storm building inside him. To anyone watching, it appeared like a husband stepping aside to share a private moment with his wife. The truth, however, was far more sinister. The tension between them had grown unbearable, and with every passing second, his determination solidified. He knew there would be no turning back once he acted, yet his mind had already crossed the point of hesitation. The music, the laughter, the clinking of glasses, all of it faded into a background hum as he focused solely on her and the dark water below. Maya leaned against the railing, unaware of how precarious her position had become. The Gulf looked peaceful, its surface broken only by ripples of moonlight. Arjun moved closer, his steps slow and measured, his expression unreadable in the dim light. In that fleeting moment, he convinced himself that this was the only way to protect everything he had built. With one sudden, forceful motion, he pushed her over the edge. The sound of her fall was swallowed almost instantly by the sea. For a brief second her scream pierced the night, but it was masked by the music and laughter echoing from the deck. The water closed around her, and the ripples disappeared as quickly as they had formed. Guests nearby remained unaware, their attention fixed on the celebration. Arjun straightened his jacket, composed his face, and returned to the party as if nothing had happened. His glass of champagne was raised once more, his smile returning like a mask he had worn many times before. It was only minutes later, when someone noticed Maya's absence, that unease began to stir. At first, guests assumed she had gone below deck, perhaps to rest. But as the search began and her presence could not be found, the atmosphere shifted from joy to confusion, then to fear. The perfect evening had shattered, and the darkness beneath the surface was finally beginning to reveal itself. The yacht was in chaos once the realization spread that Maya was missing. Guests searched every corner, calling her name, their voices rising with panic. The staff checked the cabins, the lounges, and even the galley, but she was nowhere to be found. The sea, vast and unforgiving, stretched around them like a silent accomplice. When the Coast Guard was finally alerted, the party's sparkle dissolved into dread. The celebratory atmosphere turned into a scene of confusion, tears, and whispered speculations about what could have happened. Hours later, Maya's body was recovered from the dark waters. The sight shocked everyone who had attended the glamorous event, their memories of champagne and laughter now tainted with horror. Arjun tried to keep his composure, insisting she must have slipped after drinking too much. His voice was steady, his words carefully chosen, but beneath the surface of his performance, small cracks began to appear. Some guests recalled seeing the couple near the railing. Others remembered the tension between them earlier in the night. Slowly, the image of a tragic accident began to unravel. Investigators wasted no time digging into the circumstances. The yacht had cameras, and although some areas were poorly lit, fragments of footage painted a troubling picture. Arjun's movements were too calculated, too precise, as he followed Maya to the edge of the deck. Witness statements further added to the suspicion. Several guests had noticed Maya's unease during the evening, her distracted expressions, and her avoidance of prolonged conversation with her husband. The pieces began to fit together, pointing to something far more sinister than a simple accident. The more the investigation unfolded, the clearer the motive became. Financial records revealed Arjun's empire was not as stable as he claimed. His debts were mounting, and his survival depended on access to Maya's family wealth. Her discovery of the truth and her intent to expose him meant that his carefully constructed world was at risk of collapse. The evidence stacked against him left little room for doubt. When the arrest finally came, it shattered the illusion Arjun had worked so hard to maintain. The ambitious entrepreneur once admired in Dubai's elite circles was led away in disgrace. His empire crumbled, investors abandoned him, and his name became a cautionary tale of greed and betrayal. What began as a dream wedding had ended in tragedy, the glittering facade of love replaced by the cold truth of murder. The sea had carried away Maya's life, but the evidence buried Arjun's future forever.